The gunshot cracked across the training yard, sharp and sudden, and every young soldier froze. Dust leapt from the ground inches from Oliver Scott's boot. No one moved except him. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He simply turned his head toward the startled officer holding the rifle and said calmly, "You hesitate before you shoot. That's how men like me survive." The recruits stared. Some whispered. One muttered, "That's the old man." Another replied, "That's the oldest soldier in Europe." Oliver Scott adjusted his coat and stepped forward, his voice steady despite the years etched into his face. "You want to know how I lived this long?" he said. "Then listen, not to stories, to mistakes." The sound of marching boots faded, and the story pulled back decades earlier to a younger Oliver standing in a muddy field, barely 20, rifle shaking in his hands as shells screamed overhead. A fellow recruit shouted, "Scott! Run forward! Charge!" Oliver looked ahead and saw something others missed, the silence behind the enemy line. No movement, no return fire. "It's a trap," Oliver said. "Don't be a coward," the man yelled and ran. Seconds later, the ground erupted. When the smoke cleared, the man was gone. That night, another soldier whispered to Oliver, "Why didn't you move?" Oliver replied quietly, "Because fear isn't the enemy. Ignoring it is." That lesson followed him into his first war, and the next, and the next. Oliver learned quickly that wars reward speed, but survival rewards patience. While others chased medals, he chased patterns. He watched officers argue before bad decisions. He noticed how ambushes always came after confidence grew too loud. Years later, during a night patrol, a young lieutenant scoffed at him. "You're too careful," the officer said. "Men like you die slowly." Oliver answered, "Men like you die loudly." That night, the lieutenant insisted on a shortcut. Oliver stayed back with 2 soldiers. Gunfire erupted. Screams followed. Silence returned. Oliver and his men lived. Word spread. Some called him lucky. Others called him cursed. But when assassination attempts began, not from enemies but from within, the tone changed. A poisoned drink. Oliver didn't touch it. "Drink first," he told the messenger. The man refused. Oliver poured it out. A sniper's scope glinted across a window. Oliver changed rooms at the last second. The bullets struck the wall behind him. Another soldier asked, trembling, "How do you always know?" Oliver answered, "Because danger announces itself. People don't listen." If this story is already pulling you in, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because what comes next is the reason history tried to erase him. The war intensified. During a retreat gone wrong, an explosion tore through Oliver's convoy. Bodies everywhere. Fire, smoke, pain. Oliver couldn't move his legs. He dragged himself beneath a wreck and lay still as enemy boots approached. One soldier whispered nearby, "They're all dead." Oliver held his breath for hours, surrounded by corpses, flies crawling across his face, blood soaking his uniform. He didn't move. He didn't pray. He waited. By dawn, he was officially declared dead. For 6 months, Oliver stayed off records. No uniform, no name. He moved quietly, gathering intelligence, observing how chaos made people careless. He learned his most powerful strategy during that time. When everyone is watching, disappear. When everyone forgets, return. When he rejoined his unit, a stunned officer shouted, "You're supposed to be dead." Oliver replied, "That's why I'm alive." Years turned into decades. Flags changed. Leaders fell. Oliver remained. He trained soldiers but avoided command. He refused promotions that put targets on his back. A fellow officer once confronted him angrily. "Why won't you rise?" Oliver said. "Because the higher you stand, the clearer the shot." The losses piled up. Friends buried, letters unanswered, nights haunted by faces he couldn't save. One young soldier found him sitting alone and asked softly, "Was it worth it?" Oliver didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Survival isn't victory, it's responsibility." Another assassination attempt came during peacetime. A staged accident, faulty brakes. Oliver stepped out of the vehicle moments before it rolled into a ravine. A mechanic later confessed through tears, "They told me you wouldn't notice." Oliver looked at him and said, "I notice everything." Now, back in the present, the recruits leaned closer. Oliver's voice hardened. "Here is the truth you won't hear in speeches," he said. "If you want to live long, stop trying to look brave. Stop rushing to prove loyalty. Learn when to step back. Learn when silence saves more lives than shouting." He paused, scanning their faces. "And never forget, most men who die young thought they were invincible." As he turned away, one recruit called out, "Sir, what's the first rule?" Oliver stopped. "Trust patterns, not promises." If you want to hear the final lessons, the ones that kept him alive when even destiny came for him, make sure you're subscribed, because the end of this story changes everything. The recruits remained silent long after Oliver Scott walked a few steps away. Then one of them spoke, voice unsure. "Sir, if survival is responsibility, what responsibility do we carry?" Oliver stopped again. Slowly, he turned back. His eyes moved from face to face, young men hungry for glory, unaware of the cost. "You carry the responsibility of not wasting your life," he said, "or anyone else's." The words pulled the story back once more to the most dangerous years of his life, when enemies no longer wore uniforms and death arrived with paperwork instead of bullets. Oliver had become too valuable, too knowledgeable. People feared what he knew. During one briefing, a senior official smiled too warmly and said, "Scott, you've outlived your usefulness." The room went quiet. Oliver replied calmly, "Men who say that usually don't live long enough to regret it." That night, an operative tried to slip a blade into Oliver's quarters. Oliver was awake. He always was. He disarmed the man without killing him and whispered, "If they sent you, they want me gone quietly. Tell them I'm still loud." From then on, the attempts became bolder. A false mission order meant to place him alone behind enemy lines. Oliver compared signatures, noticed the ink pressure was wrong, and burned the paper. A fellow soldier asked, "Why are you always suspicious?" Oliver answered, "Because trust is a luxury. Awareness is survival." Another war came, then another. Oliver fought less but guided more. He taught soldiers how to read silence before explosions, how to watch civilians instead of maps, how to recognize when commanders were lying to protect their pride. His units suffered fewer losses, and that made him dangerous to those who thrived on chaos. One night, a young sniper confessed to him, shaking. "They ordered me to take the shot if you crossed the bridge." Oliver didn't react. He asked, "Did you?" The sniper whispered, "No." "Why?" "Because you always crossed last." Oliver nodded. "Remember that. Leaders who rush forward usually send others to die for them." If you're learning something already, take a moment to like the video, because the next part is the lesson that saved hundreds of lives. The turning point came during a final assassination attempt that no one expected. A peace ceremony, cameras everywhere, smiles, handshakes, applause. Oliver stood beside officials who had secretly signed his death warrant. A rifle was hidden inside a ceremonial structure, timed to fire remotely. Oliver noticed one thing no one else did. A guard sweating in cold weather, eyes fixed on a countdown watch. Oliver leaned toward him and said quietly, "If it fires, they'll kill you first." The guard froze. "What?" "Because witnesses are inconvenient," Oliver said. "Walk away. Now." The guard ran. The ceremony paused. The weapon was found. Arrests followed. Documents surfaced. Names were exposed. That was the day Oliver became untouchable, not because he was feared, but because too many soldiers owed him their lives. Years later, when the wars finally slowed, Oliver aged visibly. His body weakened, but his mind sharpened. He refused retirement. "A soldier doesn't retire," he said. "He adapts." Now, standing before the recruits again, Oliver spoke his final strategies. "First," he said, "never let pride outrun preparation. Second, understand people more than weapons. Weapons jam. People don't change. Third, when everyone is rushing forward, pause. That's where truth hides." One recruit raised his hand. "Sir, do you regret surviving when so many didn't?" The question hit hard. Oliver's voice lowered. "Every day," he said. "But regret is not a reason to die. It's a reason to teach." Silence followed. Heavy, respectful. Oliver took a breath. "You will be tempted to chase recognition," he continued. "Don't. Recognition paints targets. Longevity builds legacies." He turned to leave, footsteps slow but steady. Behind him, the recruit stood straighter than before, not inspired by glory, but by wisdom earned in blood and restraint. As Oliver reached the gate, a young soldier called out, "Sir, what's the last rule?" Oliver stopped one final time. "Outlive your enemies," he said, "and teach others how." He walked away as the sun dipped low, leaving behind not a legend carved in stone, but a truth carried forward by those who listened. If this story moved you, if these lessons matter, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs it, and leave a comment below. Because the most powerful knowledge is the kind that saves lives long after the story ends.